Hi guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So I am here now to carry on with our beautiful pieces that we have been making with the crafty individual stamps and making our ring bound journal. Now I wasn't really intending on doing much more on camera, but I did notice that lots of people had commented and said that they would really be interested in seeing how a ring bound journal comes together. So I felt that it was only fair, obviously, to, come on and, continue so that you guys could see that. So again, I probably won't be continuing as such, but we will kind of go through and see how we, put the journal together and what have you, for those people who are interested in doing that. So if you're making a ring bound journal, you will need a crocodile or a hole punch. Doesn't have to be a crocodile, sorry. I'm using my crocodile. I like to use, bulldog clips to hold my pages together so that I know where I'm punching. And then I really love the look. Sorry, I'm just reaching here. I really love the look of these hole reinforcers around the holes. I just think it makes it look, really super awesome and really sort of vintagey and finishes it off really, really nicely. And then how I like to actually bind mine, sorry, now reaching behind me, just getting these, and again I should have probably actually got these first. I like to use these large rings, so sorry about that. Right, I like to use these large rings. Now I can't remember whether these are 1 inch or 1.5. I will double check on my Amazon order, but I just get them from Amazon. I am in the process of setting up my affiliate links so that you can literally just then click, so you know that you're buying the exact things that I'm talking about. But I haven't got around to finishing that, but that will be on my website eventually. But in the meantime, I will try and do it down below this video so that you can click on it and it will be the exact products, because sometimes, people say the products they use, and then when I come to search, I don't know about you guys, but there's several and I'm never quite sure that I'm buying the exact right thing. So I will, we'll try and actually link the exact ones. Anyway, so I like to try and, pop them onto there. And the other thing that I also really like doing is filling in between some of the pages, like probably in one cluster, if that makes sense, just some blank journal pages. And I tend to use this thick, so this is 200 GSM card. I mean, as you can probably see and hear, it's quite sturdy. This is being obviously coffee dyed, and I have ironed it, but it's just kind of got a bit curly, since the ironing process. So I like to use a few of those to give you some more journaling space. And when we, come to do the journal in a second, you'll see, how I do that. So the first thing is that if I pull in my pages, now obviously I have not finished this, decorating the journal and things. So I have got quite a few more pages to do. But I would have normally probably punched my holes by now. I have no idea why I haven't yet. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, normally I kind of tend to punch my holes as one of the first things that I do. And I really don't know quite how come I didn't this time, but I think I just went off at a tangent and couldn't wait to use the stamps, and that's how come I haven't actually punched the holes. So all that I am going to do is bundle together a few of the pages, not too many, so that I can get my hole punch through. So just like that, and then you're going to clip them together with your bulldog clip. Now I did mention before, I mean, my pages are not 100% identical sizes, because they've been made up. Excuse my inky fingers, I have been obviously already stamping today. Because they're made up pages that I made from the 12 by 12 papers, they're not identical sizes. I mean, they're close-ish, but they're not identical. So, don't get too worried if your pages aren't absolutely 100%. I'm sure it's fine. Now, I sort of just punch 2 holes, and it's completely up to you how far you go in. Using these big rings, it's not so imperative. When you used, you know, I used to use, make a lot of mini albums, and I used the much smaller rings. And then you had to punch really pretty close to the edge, because otherwise you didn't have enough, leverage to be able to kind of move the pages around the rings. Using these big rings, I don't think that's so much of a problem. But obviously you don't want to go too far in, because, you know, that would just be sort of weird. So I like to move my little lever thing up on my crocodile so that I know, you know, where I've punched. I mean, I have to say, I don't find that this sits in place particularly brilliantly. So just to sort of give you a warning, you know, this may slide down. You know, you might want to mark it with like a permanent marker or something like that. So you just punch a hole like that, and then down the bottom, sort of similar distance in as you have done with that. So again, I mean, I haven't measured, I've just judged that by eye, but it looks, you know, similar-ish to me. So that's all we've done there. And then obviously unclasp that. And you do need to obviously make sure that your pages are all up the right way. I have lost count of the number of times that I have put them in the wrong way. And then I've had to try and, you know, make a quick fix for mucking them up like that. So yeah, do try and keep them up the right way. So that and that. I'm just going to try and put those in like at the flattest edge. So again, just going to sort of bulldog clip those together. And again, you know, you can probably see my pages aren't, you know, aren't brilliantly the same. I'm just going to trim this up because I think this page is actually extra long, if that makes sense. But I'm just going to line that up here at the back so that we can then punch our holes in there. So again, just bulldog clipping that together so you've got your whole bunch of pages. And you can probably see why this is actually much better to do before you've decorated your pages, because obviously my pages now are a little bit lumpy. So it's much easier when all your pages are undecorated and flat. So I would recommend doing it at the beginning. As I say, I have no idea why I didn't do that this time round. I always do it generally at the beginning, and you know, my only thing is that I think I was just so busy looking at the stamps that I just couldn't wait to use them, and then therefore, you know, totally went off at a tangent and kind of forgot my normal methods that I would use. But you know, it's not a big deal, it's fine. So again, through there, and unclip those. I don't know why, but I've already noticed, I've said you know about 1 billion times already this video, so I apologise. I'm obviously having a you know day. I don't know what's going on. I thought I'd weaned myself off of that a little bit, but today's a really bad day for saying you know. I must have been saying it all weekend or something, I assume. Who knows? Who knows why I'm saying it constantly, but I might be saying it because I'm concentrating. I mean, this part of making a ring bound journal for me is a little bit up with the binding of, you know, a regular journal, in that I find this all a little bit fiddly. It's my least favourite part of the journal making process. So that's probably why I'm saying you know so much, because this is the bit that I'm enjoying the least and finding the most fiddly. Right, so that's my decorative pages, as it were. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thick plain pages, and now I like to just fold these in half like that. I'm just having a hunt around to see if I've got my bone folder. Oh, yay! I mean, it doesn't really matter from a point of view of these aren't going to be folded, I'm going to be cutting them, but the flatter I can get them, the easier they're going to be for cutting. So I find 5 is quite a good number because, you know, 5, there I go again, you know, 5 is, once they're cut in half, that's going to be 10 pages, which then technically is like 20 sides. So from only 5 sheets, you're getting 20 sides of journaling pages. So that's a sort of goodish ratio, I find. So just do this. And then the final one. And again, I mean, you could do this before you've coffee dyed them, you know, then coffee dye them afterwards. Completely up to you. And you might have a method that just works for you. For me, I just find this quite a good sort of method. So then I'm just going to cut down the edge as close as I can to where I've obviously folded it. Again, you could obviously use a paper trimmer. And that would obviously, you know, that might be ideal for you. I have got a paper trimmer. Somebody did comment the other day and said, oh, I don't think I've ever seen you use a paper trimmer. I have got one. It's buried really far under my desk, under tons of rubbish. Yeah, I haven't used it for probably, oh gosh, maybe like a year and a half, I don't know, a really, really, really long time. Combination of reasons. I don't overly like those paper trimmer, you know, the guillotine style, where you lift the lever and do that. I'm not keen on those. And more and more, that seems kind of all that you can get. I prefer those old style ones, you know, where you slide across. But in my like mini album making days, in my scrapbooking days, I used them all the time. And for some reason, don't really seem to be able to get very good ones, I find now. They often go blunt very quick. They often even start out pretty blunt, I find. So yeah, I've struggled to find one that I liked. Ended up with a, you know, the guillotine one where the arm comes down. Don't overly like that mechanism, that type of thing very much. And to be perfectly honest, for the sake of doing videos and things, I mean, obviously you've seen my messy desk. I would really struggle to even fit a paper trimmer onto my desk, let alone squash it into frame when I'm filming and all that type of stuff. So for me, I just think just cut, really. You know, I just find it easier, quicker, less cumbersome from a point of view of having to drag that great big guillotine-y thing around. And alongside that, you know, I don't actually find them that brilliant. So yeah, I've kind of knocked it on the head really using them at all. So that's why I don't particularly use them. But of course, I understand, you know, lots of people probably do get on really well with them and do really like using them. So I'm not sort of dismissing their purpose or anything like that. It's just for me, I find them a little bit of a pain. So I try and avoid them really. Right. And to be honest now, mine's buried so far under the desk that actually, if I were to try and get it, a whole bunch of stuff is probably piled on top of it. It's probably even broken under there, to be perfectly honest, because it's obviously got so much stuff piled on it. The arm is probably snapped now. No, it's probably fine, but yeah, it's just buried there. I should really have a clear out and actually just bin it. But you know what would happen if I binned it? I would suddenly decide that actually I did want to use it, so I'm better off just hanging on to it after all. Right, that's my pages. Now, let me just move my little holies, punchy holy things. So bringing my pages back in, I'm just going to check that I am in frame and filming. Now the fun part, obviously you can see, as I say, haven't decorated a lot of these pages yet. So it's very much a work in progress, but obviously we've got the ones we've done. Since the last video, I have gone on to do these other 2 pages. So we have a few more. I think I did do one more. No, I'm not sure which. Ah, right. This one, which I'm halfway in between, and I think that's it. Yeah, I'm just kind of halfway through this page. So I have been cracking on with it, but I've been sort of doing other things as well. So what you want to do now is really marry them up so that you have pages that you think look really nice together, basically. So that's, again, completely personal preference. And actually, the beauty of, again, you know, a ring bound journal is if you're not really happy with how they look, you can obviously move them around and change them so as you do like them. I mean, for instance, I think those 2 look quite nice together. And then we could have that one there, like that. Obviously, this one is not finished yet. And then we've got these 2, which we've decorated. So let's just see. I mean, that looks pretty across there. We could have that one there. And obviously I've got the others that I've yet to do anything with. Now, if you have a couple that don't necessarily go, or, you know, because they're obviously double-sided. So for instance, here, I think these look really, really nice together. But if then that meant I had nothing that really went with the back, there wasn't another page that went with that, if you see what I mean, then what you can do is a little cheat, is you can put your blank pages, your blank pages in there, which will obviously break it up, and then they don't particularly have to match at all. So that would be a good get around for that. And then all you're going to do is obviously hang them onto your rings. So we're just going to thread them through. And I haven't put my hole reinforcers on yet, so we will come back and do that as well. But I just want to show you basically how this is going to be. I mean, I know that obviously not everybody does like the ring bound journals, and you know, I can see fors and against. I mean, I think if you're somebody who really likes decorating journals, then I think they're awesome, because you can really get a lot of stuff in, and they can almost grow as much as need be because they're on the rings. And the other thing is, I do love that flexibility of being able to move the pages around. So for instance, if you know, you bought a journal, for instance, and you thought, I'm not sure that goes overly well, you can rearrange the order and put it in an order that does suit you. So I think there's lots and lots of fors for a ring bound journal, and definitely with regards to making them, personally I think they're really, really fun to make. So yeah, I do really like them. Now, as you can see as well, so that's it on the rings. So straight away it's now looking like a journal rather than a bunch of weird pages. And as you can see, we obviously haven't got a cover for this yet, so I may come back and do the cover with you guys, again, just because obviously lots of people had intimated that they would like to see a bit more of how a ring bound journal comes together, so it might be of use to some people to see the cover. So if I go to the page here that I have been semi working on, and then all I'm going to do is, for the purposes of working on it, I'm going to take it out of the rings. So we just clasp them shut, and then I can move the whole journal out the way. So I mean, another really good thing, you know, I can just pop that out of the way whilst we work on this. Now, I stamped a few things before coming on so that I wasn't just taking up people's time endlessly just doing the things like stamping. So as you can see, now what I've done here, I've just placed some book page down on this page, and then this, I've made a little sort of pocket down the side, and obviously I've just popped a flap there just with some scrap that I had on my desk. Now this actually is the inside, you know, like when you get a book and you get the jacket piece, the, you know, the outer cover sleeve, if you like, for the book, and they have the fold bits that go into the cover. This is just a section from one of those, and I just thought it made a really perfect pocket. And obviously colour wise, I just thought, oh, that's, you know, ideal for this journal. So I'm just going to have a look and see what we could pop down on here. I also stamped that other lady from those lady stamps, which we hadn't used her before. Isn't she gorgeous? So I could have her on here, or we could have a bit more of the butterfly, because I guess, oh, look what I've done. What a wally. I only realised that because I was looking around and I thought, well, that's strange. I stamped more than one, you know, I stamped 2 of these. And I was looking around and I thought, well, that's strange. I can't see it now. Yep, that's what I've done. What a wally, honestly. Ugh, just sometimes I astound myself with the randomly stupid things that go on. Right. Okay. Let's just tear around this piece. And I'm using this piece because obviously it's quite nice. It's got the butterflies, and obviously I've popped that butterfly down there. So it's quite nice to use something that's in a similar theme. I was going to have one of these ladies, but actually I think the butterflies maybe would be better. So, and actually just as I placed that down there, I thought, oh, I might prefer that here, because then it covers up a little bit of that text, and we'll put something else on here. So I might do that, I think. I've actually got some more of that I'd stamped, I think, on our first video onto some magazine, painted magazine page. So let me just pull that out and see how that would be. So I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope you're getting some crafting done, having a nice time and a bit of fun. Oops. There we go. Right, okay. So I'm just going to get some book page to lean on. Oh, maybe I'm not. I'm going to get something to lean on whilst I ink that up. I'll just use this. Now I've finally bought some more vintage photo because mine was really dry. Is it me, or is this really odd, this shrink wrap? It's quite baggy, isn't it? This is from Amazon, so I mean, I'm guessing it's fine. I think they're normally a bit more taut than that. So it just arrived over the weekend, and I hadn't been able to get it, if you recall, and I had used the, oh my gosh, look at how inky that is. Oh my goodness, talk about ruin it completely. I forgot how inky it would be being a new pad. Oh well, never mind. I will probably just tear this section off so it's not so obvious. Oh my gosh, it's still really inky. Wow. And you can't really dampen that down or anything with the painted magazine page, because actually all it does is take the paint off a little bit. So I'll have to just live with that now as it is. But I'm thinking we could have it like that, and then maybe what I'll do is tear around that top bit, because that disguises my diabolical distressing. So if we pop that there, that's quite nice, isn't it? And just covers that up completely, and then we can have this one here, so be a bit more careful this time. Wow, that's the juiciest ink pad I've ever seen, I must say. Which actually is great, you know, because sometimes you get them and they're not that juicy, so it's really nice to have a really juicy one. I was actually quite liking using that walnut stain. I mean, I have still got a bit, you know, not a bit left, but you know, it's still working. It's obviously a lot drier than it was, but yeah, I was getting quite used to it and quite liking it. But when I went on to order, they had the vintage photo, and I just thought, oh, perhaps I will revert back to what we normally use. Now, I did put here before coming on, I had a few things that I thought maybe we could use. Got one of my dictionary definitions. Could have one of those. I was actually thinking a label, and you know, one of my blue labels, and I thought I'd got one out, but actually now I'm looking, they don't appear to be blue ones, just different colours. Oh. No. How annoying. Right, hold on. Let me get my tin. I have been fussy cutting a lot, and I mean, luckily, obviously, labels, they don't really require much in the way of fussy cutting, because sometimes I do it at night, or you know, mostly I do my fussy cutting at night when you're watching TV, and that's all great. But obviously, if anything's a little bit too fussy, then I can't really see brilliantly to be able to do it. So it's much better when they're just square, straight edges, because even when it's quite dimly lit, because we just have a lamp on at night, you know, I don't really like the main light on, you can still see. So yeah, right, let's get all of these out of the way. So I quite like that. There we go. After all that, and actually just before I pop that down, let me get the stays on back out. Sorry for the desk juddering around. And the scripty stamp. And then all I'm going to, sorry, I'm kneeling up on my chair and I'm obviously fidgeting around after going into the drawer. So yeah, I do apologise. I shouldn't really kneel up whilst doing these videos, to be perfectly honest, but it is a comfy way to sit, and I just don't really like sitting, you know, just with my legs straight down. I don't find that all that comfortable. So I do prefer kneeling if I can. Although I don't think it's overly great for your knees, because I noticed that my knee's been hurting a little bit. I think it's where, you know, too much kneeling. Too much in the way of kneeling has been going on. Now, don't want that in the middle. So do I want it this way round or this way? No, I'm going to have it the other way. So we just pop that down. Well, we were super lazy at the weekend. It was not the best weather. It was quite rainy. So we did literally barely anything. I think on Saturday, I don't think barely went out of the house at all. Just went and, you know, bought a couple of like essential food things that I hadn't been able to get when doing our weekly shop. And then that was it. I think my eldest son, who was home, he wasn't at work on Saturday, he worked on Sunday, so he had one of his driving lessons, and then he cleaned his new car, his Mini. He couldn't wait obviously to clean that. My middle son, he would have loved to have helped because he loves cleaning cars, but because it was the first time, you know, my eldest son wanted to kind of do it on his own. I don't think he's ever cleaned a car before, so he was constantly having to ask what to do, mainly to my middle son, because he quite often cleans the car and we give him, you know, a fiver. Yeah, so that was kind of what they did, and I think that was kind of pretty much it. And on Saturday night, we went out for dinner, you know, like the 5 of us, obviously the kids and me and my husband. And, oh, we had a really right result, because there's a restaurant here called Frankie and Benny's. Haven't been in there for like years and years and years. But because we hadn't been anywhere or done anything all day, I think we all just needed to get out and get some fresh air, because you kind of go a bit stir crazy after a while, don't you? So I said, oh, well, should we perhaps go out somewhere? And so I looked online to try and see where had some vouchers, because I mean, obviously when you go out with 5 people, you know, and the boys eat, I mean, well, they eat more than me. So they definitely eat man-sized portions, if you know what I mean. It's quite pricey. So, yeah, I said, oh, let's have a look and see what vouchers we can find. Anyway, so as luck would have it, this restaurant, Frankie and Benny's, that we haven't been in for years and years, they had, I think it's running for like the whole of January, 50% off mains, which, I mean, that's brilliant, isn't it? So, yeah, we went there, and 50% off mains, because I mean, some restaurants, although they have vouchers, they're not normally valid on a Saturday night. So, but that was valid on a Saturday night, which obviously then kept our bill right down, which was fantastic. So it was quite a cheap meal, because I mean, we didn't have starters or dessert or anything like that. So, yeah, it was good value. Yeah, it was really good. And actually, to be fair, because we hadn't been in there for years and years, you know, didn't know really what to expect. But it was a really enjoyable meal. We had really nice meal. So I tried one of their vegan pizzas. I mean, I know I've said this before, but I'm not a vegan. I'm a vegetarian. But I do eat a lot of vegan food, you know, and actually more and more. And they had a vegan pizza, so I thought, oh, well, you know, I'll try that. Oh, it was lovely. Really, really lovely. So, and my son, my middle son, he, again, he's vegetarian, he's not vegan, but he had a vegan burger. And again, he said it was absolutely lovely. So, yeah, we were quite impressed. So, and it was just nice to get out and get a bit of fresh air, because we had obviously just vegetated for like the whole day. I mean, it was a productive day. I obviously was doing quite a few things, you know, for my shop and things like that. So, like uploading some videos that needed uploading and things like that. But yeah, it was quite a productive day from that point of view, but obviously quite boring for everyone. So it was nice to go out then and do something a bit more fun in the evening. But as I say, the weather was absolutely horrible. So it wasn't like we were missing anything by not doing anything in the day, because it was just, you know, not nice anyway. I'm going to put that lace like that, I think. Okay. And then yesterday, my eldest son was at work. What did we do? Oh, the weather was really horrible yesterday. So, again, we didn't really do that much. Well, I went to the car boot sale, our sort of local car boot sale, but obviously, you know, it was pretty quiet, because not many people had turned out to do a car boot sale, you know, i.e. there weren't really many stalls there. Only like a handful of people had ventured out. I mean, actually, when I went, it was fine. It wasn't raining or anything, but because the weather forecast had been so hideous, I think, you know, most people had not dared do one. So that was a bit of a shame. I did get my daughter a little flower fairy book, though, for 50p. And it's a really lovely book. I have got a flower fairy book already, but this was a slightly different one, but one of those big ones with lots of flaps and things like that. And as I gave it to her, I was already thinking it, but my son said, oh, I bet Mummy's thinking oh, I should have kept that to be cutting it up. And he's so right. I was thinking that, because really nice book. So then all I'm going to do here is obviously just pop my little hole reinforcers. Oops. And they're sort of the last thing that I do really on a page, because I like them to go above all of my decorations so that they're visible. Of course, you know, if you're just using them to reinforce the holes, you could put them at the bottom, you know, underneath, and then you'd decorate and they might be covered up. But I actually think they look really cool like that. So that's something you know, I really, really like to do. So I'm just going to tuck a couple of things then in the pocket here. So I just happen to have this vintage photo from my digis just loitering around on the desk, so I'll just take that and pop that in. Just try and go a bit easy on the ink pad. Won't be quite so, you know, dipping my blender in quite so badly. Yeah, I just didn't even give it a thought that I had just that second unwrapped it, and obviously just dipped my blender in, and it was like, whoa, a lot there. So that's that. And then what we could do is kind of make something like a little flippy pad or something to tuck in there. Although, to be fair, a flippy pad's not really the right thing for that, because I don't think shape wise that's ideal. Now I have an envelope here, so I'm just wondering, the envelope has been stuck down during the coffee dyeing process. So what I'm going to do is just cut it off at the top and just make that into a little sort of bag, I think. So again, I'm just going to stamp around it, and actually what I'm going to do is decorate this side. Oh, look at what I'm doing now. I'm now stamping with my vintage photo. Just right, let me put the lid on that so I don't do that. I mean, not that it matters, but oh dear. Right, and the reason I'm doing it this way, i.e. on the flap, is because then whatever I glue down will actually just help to reinforce that flap, because as I say, I mean, that's glued down from the coffee dyeing, i.e. with the gummy glue of the envelope. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I never really trust that, because you don't know how strong that glue actually is going to be. So if I'm gluing an envelope down, I mean, I tend to glue it as well as, you know, as well as, well, not as well as, but instead of, oh, what am I trying to say? Instead of using the gummy. Instead of using the gummy. Oh my gosh. I have no idea why that took so long to say that. Oh dear. Right. Let's just tear this down. Okay. So this is just some book page, but as you can see, it matches obviously that book page. So it's quite nice, I think, to use matching type pieces there. And I quite like it, I think, running sideways, because it's better shaped for the envelope. Or do I just want to just tear a section, perhaps? Perhaps we'll have it more like that. Yeah, that's quite nice, isn't it? So again, we'll just glue this down. You know, and as you can see, I mean, that's going straight over that flap. So it's also helping, again, to hold that flap closed, you know, should that flap not really be stuck down to the best that it could be. So we'll have that there. Now, do we want some white doily anywhere? Just have that like that, I think. So again, I'm just going to use this 3-in-1, because That tacky glue seems to be marking the doilies. To be fair, I don't know whether it is marking them when they're not coffee dyed, actually. That might be a bit of a fib. Right, talking of clarifying things. And I don't know whether this video has gone up because I can't remember what video it was that I was chatting about it. But I was talking about my Dyson Hoover and that it was playing up and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I wasn't very impressed because we hadn't had it overly long and all of that. As I say, I'm not even sure what video I was talking about that in. So I've been filming some other videos because I have to film them when the urge takes me. So, but because I want them to go up in some sort of cohesive fashion, you know, when I'm filming them, I'm jumping around because it's kind of like, oh, I fancy filming that, you know. But when I'm uploading them, I try and upload them in some sort of sequence. So it may or may not have gone up. But I just want to clarify, if it has gone up and you've heard me complaining, wow, amazing, amazing service, because they came out and looked at our Hoover and then, you know, all for free. Not only did they replace like the filter and things, they replaced the filter and, you know, as a temporary measure until our new Hoover arrived, would you believe? So they then actually sent a whole new Hoover. So I have gone now from thinking, you know, oh, how rubbish that Hoover's kind of broken, to now being like, wow, what incredible service that was. So yeah, I just really wanted to clarify that because, you know, I didn't want to be bad-mouthing Dyson when actually, I mean, that service I thought was pretty amazing. So, you know, literally, not only did they give us a spare filter or replace the filter whilst we waited, but they then have supplied a whole new Hoover. So yeah, I very, very, very impressed now. So I just wanted to clarify that. Right, now hopefully you can see what I have done here. So I've just taken that butterfly stamp, this one, and all I did was inked up this end and just stamped that there and there, just because I felt like that needed a little bit of black over it somewhere. So that's all I did there. And then this now, in fact, I'm going to just pop a little thumb hole somewhere. Oops. So I would just ink up there a little bit. Okie dokie. So that envelope now is more like a little paper bag, which is really cute, isn't it? And then what we can do is obviously pop, oops, one or two little journaling cards inside the paper bag. So I'm just going to reach to the side. I've got one or two other little cards. So I'll just bring these in and we'll just pop these in here. So I'm just going to ink these up like that. Okay. Oh, and I heard the terrible sad news about that poor basketball player. I mean, I personally, you know, I don't follow basketball, so I hadn't, you know, I wasn't aware of who he was, but I heard that horrible sad news about him and his daughter. I mean, I'm filming this today on Monday, and I think it will be uploaded on Wednesday, so yeah, very, very, very sad. I think when you're a parent, it just makes it all the more awful. But wow, I mean, honestly, your heart goes out to his, you know, his family, his wife. I don't know whether he had other children, but, you know, if he did, obviously to them, just horrible and so, so sad. Right, so I'm just going to pop that into there, and then I'm going to just bring the album, or the journal, sorry, back in. Can't remember now where we were going to have this. Were we having it there? I don't remember, to be honest. I think maybe we were. But again, you know, like we said, that's the beauty of these ring-bound journals, is obviously if that isn't where you want it, you can now just change it around and pop it somewhere else. But yeah, hopefully you can see, you know, that's all there was to that page. So yeah, all I will do obviously on these is pop some hole reinforcers on those, and you know, I will maybe add just a little bit of stamping or something just for a bit of cohesive flow to the other pages. And then obviously I just need to decorate up a few of the other pages and then pick something to have as the front and the back cover. So I'm not quite sure yet what I will be using for the front and the back cover. Sometimes I might use something like, you know, a book cover. Sometimes I might use like an envelope. It just sort of varies, you know, sometimes, or to some extent it will vary depending on the size of what I have to hand, really. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. So I might just crack on and try and get some other pages decorated, because I'm just aware that sometimes when I film like the whole of a process of a journal, views tend to then tail off. So I don't want to sort of really bore people to tears doing more of the same. I'd rather do them off camera and then come back, and hopefully it will be something fresh for you guys to see. Yeah, so I might do that, but who knows, I might come back and do another page, because I might come to a point where I think, oh, you know, it's a bit boring doing it on my own, and it would be nice to come and do it with you guys. Anyway, hope that you enjoyed the process. I hope if you haven't made a ring bound journal, this has encouraged you and given you some, you know, insight, I suppose, as to how really dead easy that they are to create. And hopefully you guys will join me for the next one, when we will either do another page or two, or we will do, as I say, the cover. So thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks then. Bye.